I feel like I have beef jerky stuck in my teeth. Oh, what's up everybody? This is Adam with Reese Customs, and today we're going to be taking this soft, semi-rotted piece of pecan wood and we're going to be stabilizing it so that we can use it in a resin cast, something like this right here. So this piece of wood stabilized. Before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about something else we're going to do in the video, and that is a giveaway. So the channel's at almost at 500 subscribers. We're like 414 or so at the time of this recording. So when we get to 500 subscribers, I would like to give away the blank that we make in this video today. So a little bit later towards the end of the video, I'll talk about how you can win it. But if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the thumbs up button if you like the video. And let's get to the making. Okay, so this is a piece of pecan that was from a limb that fell at the house several years ago. And I'll show some pictures up on the screen. I took that log, sliced it into boards like this, stacked them up and let them dry. That was in January of 2019. So it's now May of 2021. Had to think about that. So it's May of 2021 now. These are dry, but they're not dry enough for stabilizing. So before I get into that though, let me back up and talk about what stabilizing is. So when you have a soft wood like this, wood moves. It responds to humidity, moisture, things like that. So when you stabilize it, you take a resin and you put the wood in a vacuum, pull all the air out, and you pull resin into the pores of the wood. That hardens it and keeps it from moving so much, and basically makes it work almost like a plastic type material. Still looks like wood, still, it still sands easy like wood, but when you cast it, it just holds up a lot better, and it's a lot more similar properties to the epoxy than if the wood was just left raw. So even though this has been drying for a couple years now, it's not dry enough to put in the casting resin, not casting resin. So even though this has been drying for a couple years now, it's still not dry enough to stabilize. When you stabilize wood, you want it down to a moisture content of like 0%. So how we're going to do that is we have this toaster oven I'm going to plug up. We're going to put it at like 200 degrees. We're going to put the wood in there for 24 hours. After that, we'll come back and then we'll go through the rest of the steps for stabilizing. So let's first get it cut up into usable size pieces, and then we'll put it in the chamber. Okay, we're here at the bandsaw. We're going to cut this up, but it doesn't really matter the size. We want to keep in mind the size of our vacuum chamber. But I'm just going to cut it into various different size pieces before we put it in the oven. All right, and if you can see, that's a resaw blade on there, by the way. That's why it cuts so quick. And this stuff is really, really soft. But as you can see, it's pretty spalted, and it's got a lot of rot, worm holes, all that kind of stuff. That's not a big concern because the epoxy is going to take care of that. But we are going to clean them all out, all the little channels of the dust. We're going to clean that out before we stabilize it. Okay, I just got a little center punch. But you get the idea. We'll go through, get all these little holes cleaned out, and then I'll bring you back to the oven. All right guys, the wood is in the oven. This is my little toaster oven. Put that there just to keep the door all the way closed. And that is the controller for it. I have a PID controller on it. It has another thermocouple inside of it. So you see it's 58 degrees right now. Set to 200, and we're going to let that cook and go for 24 hours. So we'll be back. All right, it's been 24 hours, a little over 24 hours. The wood's still in the oven. Getting ready to take it out now and put it in some kind of zipper bag because it's dry now. There's obviously humidity in the air, and we don't want that humidity to come back into the wood at all. So we're going to put them in the zipper bags until they cool down. Then we can actually get onto the stabilization process. So let me grab them. I've got all our wood pieces zipped up in these bags so they can cool down. And what we're going to be using, this is a vacuum chamber, and this is one I made super cheap. I did an Instagram story about this a while back. I'm not exactly sure when, but this is basically a vase from Walmart. I think it was like $12. And then I made this lid. It's just HDPE, it's a cutting board. And I made I put silicone caulk in there. I cut out a channel on the lathe and put silicone caulk in there, and it acts as a seal. Works really good, surprisingly, for under $20 for everything. I've got a vacuum pump. This is for doing refrigerant work on an automobile, but it works great for this. And what's the key to making all this happen is the stabilizing resin. Now, this particular kind I'm using is made by cactus juice. You can see it's blue just because it's got blue dye in it. It comes clear, but we're gonna be dyeing these blue as well as stabilizing them. What you do with this is we will put these into the chamber, cover them with the cactus juice, pull a vacuum on them, and let it go for however long it takes until all the bubbles stop coming out. Once that happens, then we'll let them soak afterwards. Well, we'll release the vacuum, let them soak. So when we cure them at 200 degrees again for a couple hours, 2-3 hours, something like that. So as soon as these cool down enough, we'll put them in the resin. The reason you have to wait until they're cool is because the temperature of these can actually start kicking off the reaction of the resin, and it'll start curing before it absorbs all the way into the wood. You will need to weigh them down though, because they'll float. Let's see. Probably should have thought about holding it down before I pour all that stuff in there. Oops. Oh, it's gonna be messy. Nope. Thank goodness. This stuff cleans up with water, so it's spilling all inside the vacuum chamber, but that's perfectly okay. So, let's see. Reach. That's sketchy. But, we put the lid on, we got the valve open at first. Start the vacuum pump. I like to set it down and then close the valve. You'll need the valve because it's going to bubble a lot at first, and it'll bubble over and get everywhere if you don't. If you just put full vacuum on it right at the start. So I'm just going to do a little bit at first. So you can see it is bubbling. We're going to control the bubbling. Just so it doesn't overflow the whole thing. All right, so now it's in the chamber. We're gonna let it pool. I'm gonna keep adjusting the valve just so it doesn't just bubble up at once and get everywhere. And then once it gets to a constant state, I'll leave it, let it vacuum, and then I'll shut it off, let it sit, and then we'll come back to the video after it is soaked. All right, see you then. All right guys, we're back. It's been about 3 days. These have been soaking, so they should be fully saturated. What we're gonna do now is take them out, wrap them all in aluminum foil, and then place them in the oven. So the purpose of the aluminum foil is just so it doesn't make a mess, doesn't drip all over the oven, doesn't stick to anything or stick to each other. So normally you'd wear some gloves. I'm out. but this stuff's relatively safe. I'm actually going to dump our liquid into the container, and then I'll dump it from here back into our big jug, because you can reuse it. You can keep reusing it. But you can see now they're all dark bluish green, and hopefully when they come out later we'll be able to zoom in on them and see them. Much heavier than they were before, and that's because they're saturated. So go ahead and wrap these up. I usually use like heavy duty aluminum foil in the shop just because it's thicker, it holds up better, but I was out here, so I borrowed some from the kitchen. This stuff's gonna look sweet when it comes out. So we'll see that here shortly. All right, so here's all our pieces. We're gonna pop them into the oven at 200 degrees for a little while, and they'll be fully stabilized. So we'll come back after that. This particular stuff's soap and water cleanup, so I'll just take this inside, wash it out, and we'll be ready to use it next time. And I'll actually save this too, and that came in pretty handy. Well, sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. And today with these blanks, it was a loss, a big loss. It's not supposed to look like this. So what happened? Well, the resin is past the shelf life. It's very clear. It has a 1-year shelf life. This is probably 2 years old. I thought I could push it. I thought, hey, it looks fine. Let's try it. Maybe it'll work. But it didn't. It backfired on me. The thing to remember though is when setbacks happen, and they will happen, you got to stay positive about it, right? I'm going to order more resin. I'm going to do some more blanks. We're not out any money. We're just out time, right? A few days worth of time on this, but it's no big deal. That's why I wanted to finish this video. At first I was like, man, this sucks. I'm not going to have a video to do. I spent all this time recording and all this stuff, and it's just terrible. But I feel like it's good to show the negative things that happen too, right? So it happens, no big deal. I'll show you a close-up real quick of the blanks. You see what they look like? They are ugly. They're not supposed to look like this. It's not hardened. It's like a jelly kind of feel to it. But what about the giveaway? I mentioned the giveaway at the beginning of this video, and I still want to do that giveaway. Unfortunately, it won't be these, okay? Because they're junk, they're trash. What will it be? I have this blank. This is one of my blanks I've made in the past. It is a purple and gold resin with a stabilized piece of wood in here. That was stabilized when this stuff was new. There's some bird's eye in there, some spalting in there, really pretty. I'll get a close-up of this too. But let's talk about how you win the blank. All you have to do, leave a comment in this video. Any kind of comment, doesn't matter. We'll pick one at random. Subscribe to the channel, please. Give it a thumbs up. But really all you gotta do to win, no purchase necessary, any of that kind of stuff. All you gotta do to win a blank is just leave a comment. And I'm hoping to do giveaways like this at 500 subscribers, 1,000, 2,000, you know, up like that in the future. So keep giving away cool stuff. Keep liking the videos, keep watching them, and thanks for the support. Have a good one.